Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting. Today is September 28th. Due to some confusion on our own part, we're in room 27 at the Town Hall. May I have a roll call, please?
Bob Scanlon?
Sandy Slavin?
Jim?
Bernie.
And Bernie Pigeon. We have a quorum of 4. First item on the agenda is our meeting minutes. Sandy, which ones are you prepared to recommend?
The list of minutes that were put on the agenda, I looked at everything that was sent to us. They are exactly the same minutes that we failed to approve months ago because they've never been corrected. The July 5th, 2023 minutes on the agenda was approved on August 10th. The others are all modified. I sent corrected minutes to everybody on the commission plus Guy Campina on August 22nd and August 24th. Those are the minutes that we must be approving. And last time we talked about this, Peter said I will not review them or approve them until they're printed for me. So I don't have a way of printing them and getting it to him. But there's nothing on this agenda via the minutes that I got from Water Pollution Control Facility can be approved as they stand. They've all been corrected, and I sent the right versions to the staff over there this afternoon. I don't know.
So,
I'm extremely frustrated that I did all the work and it wasn't picked up.
okay, in our item 3, the meeting minutes, A through F, you want a table? Motion to table? If they're not prepared to be,
C has been done and posted on the town website, so A, B, D, E have to be held. I have not seen an August 10th, 23 minutes to make a comment on.
okay, then A, B, D, E, and F.
No F, I haven't seen anything.
Well, I'm gonna put them on hold. Motion to put on
Okay.
hold.
All right,
Seconded.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion regarding those?
we just have to get the right version to us next time.
Okay, roll call. Jim?
Jim, yes.
Sandy?
Yes,
Bob?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 4-0-0.
Boy, I'm looking at my screen, I don't see anything on mine that tells me.
Next item is the sewer commissioner business for an abatement for 1 Nimrod Way.
do we have a folder with this information in it?
Now that you mention it, Sandy, we don't have anything.
We have nothing. So I can't talk about an abatement when I have no documentation. We normally get folders prior to, at this meeting, so it has all the documents in it.
Okay, and there being no information, then we cannot bring it forward. It's the same as Article B, or item B, which is the Bourne, well, no, excuse me, that's the Bourne Sewer Commission. Have they arrived yet, other than one?
Well, Melissa Ferretti is on Zoom, and I'm here, and they're on their way. Peter and Jared are on their way.
Hello, Melissa.
Hello, how are you? Good afternoon or evening at this point.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I just came from a health summit in Boston at UMass, and I got stuck in that. It let out at like 5. So
Excuse me.
you can imagine.
Why don't you
how
Perfect
it's a
time.
little-
Stay with us.
Can I sit in this
But I'm
chair?
here,
I
so
like
it's good to
these
see you.
smaller
Thank you
chairs.
for having us.
Certainly you can.
Okay. I'll put one of the big guys down.
Okay, we have some members from the Bourne Sewer Commission. You just heard from Melissa. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Mary Jane Mastrangelo, on the board, on the sewer commissioners, and I'm chair of the select board report.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
And,
You probably don't remember me, but we were on the Association for Town Finance Committee board together.
oh, were we?
A couple years
Ah.
ago.
The light goes off.
Yes.
Well, welcome. In fact, I was disappointed when I had to resign from them because my term expired here in Wareham. It was an enjoyable group. I had a lot of fun with them. But we're waiting now for 2 people, particularly Jared and someone with him,
Peter Meyer
And
and Jared
Peter,
are both coming.
and of course, Bullet.
Yes, and Anne Marie Saronian was not available, she's our
Bullet
fifth
is Jared's service dog, beautiful animal, beautiful animal.
Crying out loud.
Yes, excuse the pause here, but we're waiting for the Bourne people to join us, and then we'll continue on with the presentation by GHD regarding the town article.
Do you think Guy's in 320?
No, he has to be excused.
Oh, so he always brings our packets, maybe that's where our packets are.
I would bet that's it. He never mentioned because I was down the office this afternoon, and he didn't mention it, so he's probably something came up last minute. I have some copies of the presentation that GHD is going to leave out. Do you have yours, Sandy?
I have it online.
Okay.
Melissa.
Thank you.
Were you aware that Conservation had a hearing on a project at the pollution control facility?
You were at the facility?
No, it came before Conservation for an RDA.
No, we were not aware.
To change the location of a stormwater discharge. Were you aware of it?
No, not at all.
Neither was I until they came before Conservation. I don't know how they're gonna fund it. That's not a question I could have asked in Concom.
I found it interesting.
You see this piece of land right there behind the building?
Yes,
That's where they're gonna do stormwater discharge in that
that's one of
hole.
the locations?
For their stormwater, will go
Oh,
there
stormwater
as
discharge.
opposed to there,
Yeah,
so I was quite surprised. Interesting.
does anyone have any questions? As long as we have this long pause?
Wait till the end.
Unfortunately, I again apologize for the confusion that created this long silent spell.
John, should we speak to the,
Yes, would you please begin under the circumstances?
so to update the sewer commissioners?
Well, may I introduce you, you're Sarah?
Oh, yes, and I don't know where I
GHD.
can be seen, but it's okay, I don't wanna be right in the front. So Sarah, the voice off screen is Sarah Greenberg from GHD. We're working with the sewer commissioners in the town to, on a design project for the upgrade of the clarifier and headworks project as part of the design, which was approved last fall town meeting. And the design is ongoing, and as part of that design project, the stormwater bylaws for the town and the state require that anytime stormwater is being discharged somewhere, if it's modifying from an area, we brought the conservation agent out to look at the area we're looking to continue to reuse as stormwater. It's a space on the existing water pollution control facility site. It's currently being used for stormwater. We intend to continue to use it as such, but there is construction activity proposed under the design project in that area. And so we brought the conservation agent to come out to identify what the appropriate path forward was, and they identified that we should come before Conservation Commission for an RDA to confirm, to just move that one
See,
forward.
someone knew about it. It was a surprise to me.
Yes, apologies, we'll make sure in the future to be much more, bring everybody up to speed. We just talked through the design parameters in some meetings and, but clearly didn't connect that with the fact that we were going before for that.
Isn't it amazing if I'm on two different committees, how I learn things?
Yes, it is amazing, it is amazing. Yes, we will make sure that confusion doesn't happen anymore.
And I hope both of us don't continue on with this confusion.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. We'll all work together to get it done moving forward. But yes, that is why we went before, just to keep the process moving. And so we've been in touch with the planning board for the stormwater permit as well, which is another process that is part of the design work. So all of this is under the current design project, and we're keeping that moving. And the RDA received a negative determination, which is good, and that is what we wanted. So the design can proceed with showing stormwater work in the area as proposed.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, I bought this sometime.
How long does it take to do this presentation?
It is approximately 20 minutes.
Town meeting floor is 5.
I'm gonna,
Yes.
move to suspend the rules.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Town meeting has to approve it, don't they?
They have to approve the
Extension. Yes.
suspension of the rules. It's only appropriate they do so and they get all the information in a proper presentation.
And we can also prepare to have a short version as well, so that we're prepared for either scenario, per whatever your guidance is.
Yeah, I've seen the long version and I prefer, because it had a larger amount of information that was pertinent to the issue.
Are they still lost?
I don't know, I talked to Jared, he said, I told him it was in Town Hall, room 27 at the end of the hall on the fourth floor.
Because he's gotta go around the back for the elevator. He comes in there to get the elevator. I just happened
I
to
just
think
came
that,
in there.
yeah, they keep it open till almost 10 o'clock.
Is that different than where I came in from the parking lot?
Yes, this one down here is flat, and it comes in and it connects to the elevator.
He doesn't have to do the elevator.
Yeah, but there's no steps coming into this back door.
The handicap entrance is the back door.
Yeah, but he doesn't, he's fine.
Mm. It was just a thought, I don't know
Yeah,
how incapacitated he is.
It's cleaning. I think they won the lottery ticket and they're off.
So,
off for
Jimmy,
to the
welcome
office.
home.
Thank you.
Do you wanna start and have them watch on TV, like the beginning part if they miss it, or are you fine with waiting?
Could you call him?
Ah,
Uh-huh.
there's Peter.
How do you do, Peter?
How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
And out of
Please
breath.
have a seat along here so you can watch the screen well.
All right.
And I'll pass you down. You wanna get down there?
I'm all right here,
Okay.
Vince.
Did you lose Jared on the way?
Nope, he's in his truck, he's on his way up. We went over we were down the Elmhurst Street, the Mexican place down the street.
Oh,
And I'm like, the food's too good to leave, but we had to leave. And,
Never heard it quite phrased like that.
the last time I was in this room, it was a long time ago, it was before Derek Sullivan was town administrator.
Oh my gosh, he's been 10, 12 years.
no.
At least 11, I thought.
Derek?
He was here when I came, and I was here at 15.
I've been on the select board for 13 years.
Hmm.
No, 12. And Michael's back there.
Oh, good, you were able to move Jim off. You got moved around a bit when your image was on.
Oh. When? Thursday, last
yeah.
Thursday? No.
Yes.
Have you been introduced to everyone?
We did introductions, we were just waiting for you guys, because
Oh,
the
okay.
meeting started at
Okay.
6:30.
We do have a quorum.
I think Jared's out in the hall now.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Yep. Oh, Jerry.
Made it.
By all
Over
means,
there or over here?
grab a seat over here if you like. Where you can,
Circle around.
okay.
Here, pass that
My
down.
apologies for the confusion.
That's okay.
Bob, will you pass that down, please?
Thank you.
I called the guy, told me where to go.
That's our warrant article, if I don't know it by heart.
Well, we have Jared from the Bourne and Sewer Commission as chair, has joined us.
No, Mary Jane's chair.
No, I'm chair
Nope.
of the selectmen.
Selectmen.
Oh,
He's chair of the sewer commissioners.
Oh, aren't these the same people?
Yeah, but we have different chairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we split the duties.
Try to confuse me even more? Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and Bob Pequan. The next item on our agenda is the presentation by GHD, by Sarah Greenberg.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. So tonight we're here at the joint Wareham and Bourne Sewer Commission meeting. We're here to talk about the Headworks and Clarifier Upgrade Project. It is a warrant article on upcoming Wareham's Fall Town meeting. And we're here to talk about the moving into construction phase. As last fall, the design of this project was approved, and so the project is currently in design. And so we're here to continue talking about it in anticipation of the fall town meeting. But just to back up for a minute and give a high-level overview.
Excuse me, Chair, do
Yes.
you want to call the meeting to order?
I do, actually. I was just gonna.
Yeah.
So, I will call our Bourne Sewer Commissioners, Board to order at time being 6:54.
Let the record so show. Bad English.
May I continue?
Yes, please, thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, no. So high-level overview, this is the Wareham Water Pollution Control Facility. This shows you how the wastewater comes to the facility to be treated, and shows you the process as the wastewater gets treated from beginning, where it comes in from the collection system, all the way to the end where it's discharged as a clean the cleaner water is discharged out at the outfall at its effluent. So you can see area 1 in the upper corner here. Area 1 is the headworks. That is the first process that the wastewater sees when it comes to the facility. That's where our screens are, that's where grit removal happens. So any of the large items that might come in from flushing a toilet, a child's toy, cat litter, wipes, all of that gets removed at this stage. And the grit, so sandy particles, anything that comes in like that into the from the wastewater, also gets removed at this stage. And the headworks is also where septic receiving is located. So if septic haulers are pumping septic tanks from the town or surrounding areas, they come here to offload and discharge it at this location, so the treatment facility also treats septic. And then you move on to area 2, which is the meat of our treatment process. The aeration basins are where the microbes and bugs do their thing and treat the wastewater. And then you move on to area 3, which is, I think that's hiding it a bit. I'm not sure how that's happening, that's okay. Area 3 is just below area 2. The circles are the clarifiers, the secondary clarifiers. And after the microbes have done their job to treat the wastewater, they fall to the bottom as what we call sludge. And the clear liquid, or clarified water, if you will, rises to the top, continues over to our next process, area 4, which are our denitrification filters. And those are sand filters. So that clear water is just filtering through sand, so that we can remove the last of the nitrogen that's needed to be removed for the plant's permit. So it can be now, without its nutrients, released back into the environment in a good state. Not before it goes to area 5, which is UV disinfection, ultraviolet light and disinfection, so that now this water that has its nutrients removed and can be introduced back into the ecosystem is also disinfected. So now it's ready to go back out into the ecosystem, which for this facility is the Agawam River, area 6, that's the outfall. So I just wanted to give an overview to frame everybody around the plant before we drill into this project, which is upgrade of the headworks, area 1, and the clarifiers, area 3. So most of the equipment at the facility, the last major upgrade that occurred, construction was completed in 2005. So we're approaching that 20-year life. We call for we call the life expectancy of equipment in design, that it would have an expected life of 20 years. You know, things can last longer, as we all know from our appliances in our homes or our boilers that have been around for a long time. Things can last longer, but you can't necessarily expect them to, and there could be added maintenance as they get past their life. So that's how we kind of define the life expectancy. And so the headworks and the clarifier are both areas and processes that have equipment that is at this life expectancy, and the equipment is starting to fail, and it's critical for meeting the plant's permit. So the plant has a permit of parameters, it has to meet treatment goals so that that water can go back in the ecosystem. And so if you have failing equipment, you can understand that that might be a risk of permit issues. So the headworks area, that's the first process that the wastewater sees as it comes into the treatment plant. And that is where, as I said, the screens are that are removing rags, the grit system, and the air. And so the wastewater that's coming into this facility is, of course, creates a very corrosive environment and atmosphere. Of course, there's ventilation and odor control in the building, but over the years, as things break or fail or wear or near their life expectancy, it exacerbates an issue and makes the atmosphere much more corrosive. And you can see here in the photos on the left, grit and grit dumpsters, and on the right, the screen. You can see the equipment is really corroded, and the equipment is failing at the Headworks facility, and it's getting beyond its useful life. And as I mentioned in the overview screen, this is also where septage comes in. So the haulers from around the town, if they're pumping septic tanks, they come here to discharge. They can't do it for free. They discharge and they pay a fee, and that is a source of revenue for the facility because they're treating the septage at the plant. Unfortunately, for the last at least 6 months or so, the septage has not been able to be taken at the facility because right now the facility can't handle the additional nutrient load. It's really trying to just manage what it can do from the wastewater collection system, so they've been unable to take septage, and that's a source of revenue. That's a loss of revenue that the facility is seeing. In addition, as the equipment in the headworks is failing, if it's not doing its job, not removing wipes, not removing those kids' toys, or grit or sand, that all of that is just continuing on to the rest of the facility and causing issues for the other processes. So this is just illustrating the added maintenance. Somebody in the left-hand photo is taking a tank down to clean out and get rid of the rags and grit that have kind of built up there. This is something that we might do periodically, but with all of the extra load coming in that's not being removed at Headworks, this is happening more frequently and is an added maintenance cost item. Not to mention if wipes and rags are clogging pumps or other equipment, you could actually, they're seeing actual equipment replacement costs in addition to the labor costs. So not having the working Headworks is adding unnecessary costs to the rest of the facility. The second component of this project is to upgrade the clarifiers, the secondary clarifiers. As I mentioned, the equipment in the clarifier tanks are failing at the end of their design life. And furthermore, the clarifiers themselves are too shallow. They don't currently meet design standards. They may have met standards when they were designed, but they do not currently. And so they're too shallow to really do their job and allow things to settle and really allow the clarified water to continue to move on to the next process. So what do I mean when I say a failing clarifier? What does that look like? As you saw from the photo on the right-hand side, this shows the clarifier at the treatment facility. It had a mechanism, an equipment component that broke, and you can see that there are solids that are on top of the surface, whereas on the left-hand side you can see what a working clarifier should look like. Clear liquid, of course, rising to the top so that clear wastewater that's been treated and now clear can continue on to the next stage of treatment. And so, in recent years, the facility has had incidences of overflows where secondary clarifier or secondary treatment water has had to be discharged into above ground holding basins. Of course, at many of the sewer commission meetings before there's been discussion of all the solids handling and the sludge removal issue and disposal issues. That's a regional problem, but of course is also affecting Wareham. And so temporary storage facilities can be bought to hold things on site, but that costs additional money to have temporary storage, and those are really being pushed to their limits as well. And so since the equipment is failing beyond its useful life, and causing these additional maintenance issues and costs that might not otherwise be placed on the system if these headworks components were working, if the clarifier was working, it just is adding to that challenge. So when we talk about failing equipment, well, you know, the goal of all of this is to meet the permit. The facility has a permit of treatment goals it needs to meet. What does it mean if we have a failing facility? What are those consequences? Of course, as you can imagine, a big one is environmental issues, environmental contamination. If you're not treating to the treatment goals and you're releasing too many nutrients into the environment and causing fish kills because it cannot support the local ecosystem that you're releasing the water back in if you're not meeting your permit. And it's not just the environmental contamination. Of course, there are commercial fishing issues if you have to close down an area where there's shellfishing from this. There's of course also the recreational aspect. You know, Wareham is a very coastal town, and there's a lot of people want to go to the beaches, want to go swimming, and to have beach closures to deter tourism. That's also, you know, that has a cost impact as well. Of course, another consequence of a failed facility that's more extreme is, you know, if you're not meeting that permit, and the federal government makes note of that, they can provide issue a consent order that would decree that the environmental contamination is cleaned up, that it's remediated, and not only that, but there are fines and penalties that are often associated with these consent orders to enforce it, and they're daily fines, and you can imagine how long a project could take to clean up after an environmental contamination. And so, you know, years of fines that can add up. And of course then, you know, you're cleaning up the work, you're still doing, trying to improve something and fix something, but now how do you pay for that? And often you'll lose, once there's a consent order, you'll lose state funding such as the 0% interest and some of the grant funding that's available. It doesn't happen a lot, but you know, there are circumstances where there is sewage discharged into the environment. This is just showing you an article from the Environmental Protection Agency's webpage, indicating, you know, that the city of Quincy had a sanitary sewer discharge, and a consent order was given to them by the federal government, and they have to mitigate the issue, clean everything up, fix everything, and between that and all the fines, you can see that the cost of the measures is expected to exceed $100 million. So just to give kind of a flavor of there are costs associated with once it gets to the stage of consent order. So you know, why are we here now at the end of the useful life of the equipment? You know, and moving forward on this project. Well, this isn't just coming about all of a sudden. This is work that's been established as far back as 8 years ago, where in 2015 a capital improvement plan for the whole wastewater system, the facility as well as the collection system, identified what are the areas that need improvement, that need to be addressed. You know, what is the work upcoming? And that was that did identify the headworks area and the secondary clarifier equipment as that's where it first established that these are items that are going to be coming up for needing to be fixed and upgraded. And then most recently in 2021, a plan specific to the facility itself, a plant evaluation was conducted to look at all the equipment at the facility, at the plant. You know, what's its condition, what's its age, so how well is it functioning, but also how likely is it to fail, and if it does fail, what are the consequences of that? And so that evaluation, when you put all that together, that creates a priority list of, at the facility, what's important and what rises to the top as the most urgent. And the next items on that list in that report are the headworks and the secondary clarifiers. So this work has been, you know, on the horizon, and it is urgent to be, and has risen to the top of these. So one question that does need to be answered though is, okay, we fixed the clarifiers. we get new equipment at Headworks. Does this mean that it's going to put a Band-Aid on something while concurrently there is a comprehensive wastewater planning project going on? What will that come up with? And are we going to have to change course and we'll have done this for naught? And the answer is no, this is not a Band-Aid. This project is being done in tandem with the comprehensive wastewater management planning efforts. And in fact, this project is a critical foundational piece for expansion growth at the facility in tandem, in conjunction with the planning efforts. So I wanted to show this figure, and it's showing an aerial view of the existing facility with a bunch of color-coded shapes. And specifically, you can see here in yellow highlighted, those are the components of the facility that represent the current Headworks and Clarifier upgrade project. And you can see that that is one foundational phase that when you build upon by going to the next phases, shows how the facility could handle expansion, bringing more flow in, treating more flow. And so you can see in green, those are the tankage and the modifications at the facility that would be needed to get to a full 2 MGD. We all know that right now the facility has a permit where no more than 1.56 MGD can be released into the river. And so this expansion shows how the plant could, in green, accommodate 2 MGD, in blue expand to 3 MGD, and that the treatment of this expansion could all be accommodated at the facility. So as you can see, this fits into the overall planning efforts and is a first step in a multi-step process along with the planning efforts. So of course, the natural next question that we're all asking ourselves is, okay, well, what is that all gonna cost, right? What is next? What else is there? And those are all very valid questions. So you can see here is a list of phases and shown on the far left where we sit in phase 2. This current design project that is under design is for equipment and process upgrades to address age-related issues and failing equipment, but again, is a foundation for future expansion. These need to be upgraded in order to continue for expanding the facility. So that in phase 2A, you can see that we are getting to an actual facility capacity expansion of 2 MGD. And you can see there's costs associated, these estimated project costs. And this is not cumulative, of course. You have to add all that up to be able to see at the wastewater facility, the existing facility that can handle the expansion to treat this expanded flow as we've shown. You can see what would it cost when you get all the way out to 3 MGD. But you also have to, of course, consider the other pieces that go along with it, right? If you're expanding to 3 MGD, that means that you need to find additional areas to discharge additional effluent. Right now, we're stuck at 1.56. So to get to 3, there'll be additional effluent discharge, whether it's expanding the existing permit and sending more to the river, or finding additional areas to send clean wastewater, such as to groundwater discharge in sand beds, for example. And so those are additional costs, as well as, of course, the collection system and building it, right? We can expand to 3 MGD. That now allows us to have new residential areas come in, new commercial areas come in. Everybody that has been looking to expand add a bedroom to their house. This allows for that kind of expansion, not to mention, of course, sewering, existing septic systems that might be in failure to meet environmental needs. So to bring it all back down to this project, this Headworks and Clarifier upgrade project that is in design is replacing existing equipment, but preparing that existing equipment to be readied for expansion and be considering the town's future needs and expansion. As we know, so this project, of course, needs to now go into construction as the next phase. And so on the fall town meeting warrant, there is a warrant article, and it's to authorize borrowing of up to $36 million. If the construction doesn't take $36 million, it won't be borrowed. It's as simple as that. It's an up to amount. And so let's talk about some of that pay breakdown, right? How does that all work? So this project is being applied for funding through a state loan program, which is a 0 to 2% interest. And depending on what the application approval comes in at, and how you show that will depend where you land within the 0 to 2. But it's a low interest. We all know that the market loans, I don't believe we can get anything that low on the open market right now. And so, an association with this program, with the state loan program, is a forgiveness component. So Wareham gets 10% loan forgiveness, principal forgiveness, AKA grant money, right? 10% of whatever the cost of the project is doesn't have to be paid back. And then out of the rest, of course, as we all know, and Bourne is sitting here, right? The Bourne connects into the wastewater facility, and of course through the intermunicipal agreement, Bourne contributes 17% of improvement projects and work of that nature. So Bourne will have a contribution, and of course the remaining balance is to be funded through the sewer budget. And as the sewer commission has indicated, approximately $40-ish, $46 per user per year at a time once this loan needs to be paid back. So that's the nitty gritty of the cost of the project. And so where we sit here is that we're coming up to Fall Town Meeting in October, and that is where approving the borrowing authorization for up to $36 million will be on the warrant for passing. And if the town would like to stay on the funding list and be considered for this funding that has 10% principal forgiveness and very low interest loans, then the borrowing authorization must be passed in October, or the state will give those funds to another community that has been approved on their temporary list. And so we've talked about a lot about all the some failing equipment, the consequences of failure, etc. Of course, there's always a no action option and not proceeding to take this design project into construction. But of course, the consequences of no action are also costly as well. As we've mentioned here, reducing the efficiency of the rest of the processes is happening already. Headworks not working is allowing the things that should be taken out at Headworks to be throughout the rest of the facility and causing maintenance issues, maintenance cost, replacement cost throughout the whole line, and just really making the rest of the process inefficient. Of course, we've talked here about consent orders, that is another consequence of no action, because as we mentioned, if the facility has a permit, and if the permit is not being met, the federal government will take notice of that and will could enact a consent decree that would require fixing the fact that you're not meeting permit, doing these upgrades anyways, enacting penalties in addition, and then unfortunately at that stage you're no longer eligible, as we mentioned, for the 0% financing. And of course then we're stuck in this fixing a problem versus moving forward into expansion, and so we're stagnating economic growth. And of course to boot, you still have to require to finish the wastewater project. And I'll just remind everybody that you saw in that headline that these penalties with the consent order can cost in excess of $100 million. So that cost of no action isn't inconsequential and could actually be more than the project. But the next step, in order to construct this, build a foundation for future growth at the facility, for future growth in the town of Wareham, is to authorize borrowing of the construction funds at the Fall Town Meeting this fall. So with that, I think we'll open it up to questions if that's acceptable.
Certainly. Jared, would any of your members like to ask some questions?
So obviously our agreement is up, we're due to have a discussion with our agreement. Did you break down any parts of our agreement specifically, looking at our costs in specifics? I know the 17% came up. Did you break down anything else that might cost us specifically?
There were no added costs that we can determine. We've already funded the design from ourselves. That isn't part of the contract language as far as I was concerned.
Okay.
So it's just the 17.9.
That's kind of where I was going, just to make sure there were no other added costs for us that were not directly mentioned. I know the 17% is part of our contractual
Yes,
agreement, but
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure there were no other outstanding.
All our calculations are done based on just the 17.9.
Okay. Any other questions from our board? MJ?
Yes, ma'am.
So I've watched this a couple times, so I'm pretty familiar with it. I want to say, I think that this presentation is very helpful in answering some of the questions that arose in July, where there was questions about, should we be doing this, or should we just be building a new plan? I mean, is there a process? And I think this has been helpful in addressing some of that. There are a couple things that I just want to note. When you say $46 per user per year, you are talking about Wareham. You are
Yes.
not talking
That's
about
correct.
Bourne.
Correct.
Because it'll be much higher in Bourne.
Yes.
Correct, and we use a different billing, we use
Yeah,
EDU.
I'm just, you
Yeah.
said per user per year, I just don't, well, I am saying for anyone in Bourne who may be watching this presentation, that the cost of the 17.9% will be higher than $46
So
per
we will
user per year.
insert the word Wareham users.
And that's a good plus, because that is important. And
Yes, it is.
We do our own billing and our own breakdown, so it is different, but there is an additional cost for us.
So I just wanna point something out in some of the future plans, which I think are interesting, and I think they're gonna be part of our discussions when we talk about the IMA and where we should be going forward and how it should be structured in the future. Any expansion of the plan that does not provide additional usage to Bourne is not subject to the 17.9%. The only projects that are subject to the 17.9% are ones in which Bourne is benefiting. So when you do like a capital project for Swift's Beach or something that has nothing to do with Bourne, we don't pay 17.9% because it's not ours. And so if there's a plant expansion where Bourne's not getting additional flow, then we would not be paying part of that cost. And also, it would reduce the 17.9%, because the 17.9% is the 200,000 gallons per day as a percentage of the 1.56.
1.5, and that's the key number.
So I think for your future planning and your future reference, you need to keep that in mind,
Very good
because.
point, yes.
So
indeed,
as
yeah.
we increase our ability to discharge, your contribution remains the same, therefore the percentages changes.
Well,
Yeah,
it depends. I mean, if we stay at 200,000 gallons per day,
And we,
then our percentage of the capital cost for all things that
Yeah.
are incorporated would change. And so I think we need to think about that.
Yes, yeah.
The other thing is, I just wanna make sure that when you think about the 36 million, that the 10% that you might get off of principal forgiveness happens before the 17.9%.
Yes,
Yeah.
And that's how the calculation
yes.
works.
I'm just-
Whatever it's calculated, it's after all the grants that
Okay,
have been
okay.
credited towards it.
But
So-
good point, but.
Yeah, but I mean, I just, I'm like, I'm a finance committee background person, so, you know, these are the finance committee questions. So, the other thing is that to get those 0% of those principal forgivenesses, there are things that you have to do,
Yes,
like
we
to
do.
net zero planning, and I'm hoping that you're working on those background things that have to be done to qualify for the 0%
critical one is the
interest.
CWMP.
Yeah, the other thing is that it would be very helpful for Bourne sewer commissioners to get some of the planning documents, so that when you're planning this, and for us to know that when we are doing our planning and our budget planning, that if you're not planning to be, you know, you're planning for the SRF loan to kick in 2027, that's really important information for us to have, because we are planning for things that we're doing, you know, we're facing sewer issues for, replacing grinder pumps and other things. So we have a lot of things that we're doing too, and we need to get everything in our capital plan and our budget planning. We've had some issues where, for the EQ tanks, we got a bill in June for something for $36,000 that we didn't know and hadn't been told was going to be in our budget. And so, we had no idea this, and even the next year, we were like asking, in January and February, I'm watching the sewer commissioners meetings and I'm saying, look, they're gonna be sending us bills, do we have the figures on what we're gonna be getting? And I don't think we were in our budget preparations and didn't get that information until February. So that communication between Wareham and Bourne, we're doing our budget preparation for FY '25 now. If there are gonna be things that we need to be aware of, we need to be aware of them for our budget, so.
I think Jared and I have started
Yeah.
a relationship that is, indeed should be ongoing, because
Yeah.
we are intricately involved with each other.
Yes, so, I think that this has come a long way since July. I think a lot of the questions that people had, are, answered in this. And I think the concept of how your plant's gonna be improved, through your comprehensive wastewater management plan, we need to be apprised of how that's going to. Like, what's in the plan, what are you thinking about doing, how does it mesh with what we're thinking and what we
Indeed.
need? Because we have an area in Bourne that's about 100,000 gallons per day that is not sewered around Little Buttermilk Bay. And as part of our CWMP, we're thinking about sewering that area because it's a dense, connected area. So in the Wareham agreement, there were these phases that were laid out in Buzzards Bay. I don't know if you have all been around long enough, but there's phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can have sewerage in phases 1, 2, 3, 4 that's mapped out on that map. But then there was a phase 5 and a phase 6, and we can't connect to Wareham for those yet, but those are things that we might wanna be talking about. So in the future, when you think about plan expansion, if there's gonna be room for some of that, for board to participate in, to pay some of the expansion and some of the operating costs, that's something that we should be having discussions about. So we're not CWMPing in like two different directions that could be working together.
And I find this interesting because it's opening up a lot of areas that we, as you point out, we have in common and we are intricately involved with, both of us.
Yes,
And this is new to us, news to us as well as new to us. Because we've ourselves have sections that in our plan initially, 20 years ago, were supposed to be sewered, and we never got to them only because the cost proved to
Yeah.
an extent we couldn't afford to.
yeah. And I only have one more thing to add, and it kind of has to do with this. So, Bourne is, because we're part of Barnstable County, which has the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund, which is the extra tax on short-term rentals, that is collected in all the towns in Barnstable County. We have the ability to, participate in, them paying part of our SRF loan, for projects that Bourne participates in. The problem that we have is if it's a Wareham project and is listed as Wareham on the SRF, that we can't get that funding, and that can be 25%. So when we're talking about maybe 6% of Bourne, maybe getting 25% of that paid for us by Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. So we've been having these discussions with SRF recently and with Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. And I want to make you aware that SRF is looking at a way to do the loans, the SRF loan for, say, this project, where the apportionment of the 17.9% would go at the SRF level. So Wareham would get billed their portion and Bourne would get billed their portion, so that we might be able to qualify for the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. And we're really early in the process. I'm just making you aware so that if Nate Keenan or someone at SRF starts talking about it, that you're aware that this would be a huge benefit to Bourne, to reduce the impact of this project on us, so.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
And for future projects, it's important to us. And it's part of us, when we look at how we're moving in the future, when we look at doing it with Wareham, if we're doing it with Wareham and we're losing 25%, the cost benefit for us becomes a little different.
Yes,
So I think being able to have conversations and work together, I think will be really beneficial to both of us.
Yes.
oh, indeed, and awareness, it goes a long way. Yeah. Peter, do you have any questions?
She talks for all of us.
Yes, Mark?
I just wanted to comment on one thing that came up with the CWMP. So last week, we gave a presentation before the sewer commission kind of a progress report on the comprehensive planning project.
Watched it.
You did, okay.
Yeah, and I asked for the document.
So I guess what I'd like it to know is, I mean, is there an interest in some kind of a small discussion group about it? Is there a desire to have us come before the Warren Sewer Commission? I mean, I'm
Well, the sewer commissioners have to talk about,
Okay.
like, the appropriate way
Mm.
to get,
Yeah, most certainly, that's something that we're working towards. It is, all in all, the better communication. It is not something that has been strong, and we all get that, we're not gonna bash that point, but the reality is that we're all working to go the same direction. There's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of sewerage problems, drainage problems. All of these things are all tying together now. So every community, especially on the Cape, are working towards these goals of addressing those problems. And so we're all going the same direction. We're all working on our CWMPs, and it would be nice if we could work in conjunction and be able to go the same direction rather than different directions. And like MJ brought up, we are looking at different ways of doing funding, and the Water Coalition, we've been trying to get this for quite a while, and it's been a no, because it's a Wareham project, and now finally we're starting to get some traction as to, well, yeah, it's in Wareham, but it is our project. So we're starting to get some traction on that, so working together in unison, I think would only better our options and our possibilities. So and I have had conversation with Bernie, and we're really working towards having better communication and working towards the same goal. So ideally, yes, we would like to have some conversation at some point. This is actually our first joint meeting in, I don't even know when. I've been on the board for 6 years, and I don't think we've had one other than
I think there was one Zoom in
subcommittees,
COVID,
yeah, other than subcommittees getting together. So it's been quite a while, and this has been coming to fruition at a long time, but thankfully, with Bernie reaching out to us, it's been great. So we're looking forward to getting that joint package coming together.
Andy?
I would just say, is it possible, as you look at the Wareham CWMP, you look at phases 5 and 6 that Bourne is considering, because I don't think you included that in any of the numbers that you provided us Thursday. You totally focused on Wareham flow. And if they want to do more around Buttermilk Bay, 5 and 6, we need to add that into our plan.
correct.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
And I just want to add to that, because this has come up recently, and I
Oh,
mentioned this to Bernie. We do have a couple things on our plate that we're looking to expand, not just on the Buttermilk Bay side, but our Bourne Scenic Park has come to us looking for some allocation. And the problem is with the construction of the new bridges,
Still
the
exists.
Bourne Scenic Park campground is literally in, around, and amongst the Bourne Bridge. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that campground actually encompasses around the Bourne Bridge base. And part of that park encroaches on phases 3 and 4, but does not land completely within. However, the connection piece that would come on to our sewer system would be within phase 4, I think it was, and phase 3.
I think if it's by the scenic highway, it's 3, because it's like 3.
Yeah,
and
so
4.
the connection point and part of the block that they wanna, sewer is in, but the large majority of the rest of it is out. And I think originally when they drew those lines was because it was Army Corps of Engineer property, which it still technically is, but the Bourne Scenic Campground is a Bourne Recreation Authority managed property. So there's a conundrum there, and we
Yeah,
have.
we need to have a discussion.
We need to have a group discussion about, is that something that we would be able to bring on board? And also, would the Buttermilk Bay area, that watershed for us is an issue, would that be able to come on board? And so those are all discussions that are coming. And she mentions 5 and 6. Those were sections that were originated in the beginning, but never gotten to.
Yeah, they weren't
And so
part
they were
of the
never brought
original.
on board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there is a little bit to it, and if you'd like, we can get you some paperwork.
So, yeah, I was wondering, is there a contact person in town that we should work through for this?
You could probably come through the chair, and then we can work through staff that way.
Yeah, or Marlene, I mean.
Or directly through the town administrator. I think right now it'd probably be better to come through the chair, just because we have so much going on with Marlene. I can kind of filter through and get directly to her and then the engineering.
All right, we'll do
Perfect.
that.
Melissa, did you wanna make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. The presentation was certainly, as MJ said, it was definitely, shed some light on what was going on, and a lot of the questions that I had were answered. And MJ, with her, finance background, she answered, she filled in some of the blanks there, asking, and reiterating some of the terms. And, yeah, I look forward to the next meeting, and I'm grateful that you invited us. Thank you for giving us some time and some of your space, and we will see you next meeting.
Good.
Thank you.
Jimmy, do you wanna comment anyway?
I think it's about time we've done this. We've got a big overlap of a lot of stuff that has to get taken care of. And I think anything we can do to help them on the financing end of it, with the new, procedure that they're talking about, I think we should do everything we can.
Yeah, seems like it'll benefit both of us, no matter what,
We're all after the same thing.
yeah.
I mean, regionalization would probably help us maybe a little bit more, but that's another issue.
Yes. We've reached out, we're gonna try to rekindle our relationship with Buzzards Bay, the coalition. We're trying to examine all the avenues available to us, see which is beneficial for all of us.
Well,
Bob, do you have any comment?
I will say that there is still a lot of resistance to the outfall in the canal.
Well, I wasn't gonna use that word tonight.
And there is a slide here, that talks about,
Yes, it does.
what could go wrong? And, overflows and, environmental contamination and beach closures and regulatory fines and loss of state. So all these things are the fears of the people that live and
Yeah,
fish.
Mr.
and
Barlow
work
has made it very clear.
on the canal.
Well, I'm a property owner on the canal, so if that pipe goes, if it discharges, my house is 5 houses away and it'll go onto my beach in the backyard. So I'll have direct impact, and I will say on behalf of the family over my dead body. And I understand why it would make sense, but the community at town meeting by 4:50,
Yeah.
stated their non-binding opinion pretty emphatically. And so I just hope that before that becomes if that becomes an option, I just hope that that's the last option you have. And I hope there's other options on the table for where you wanna send.
Indeed, and I understand the sensitivity of it. And it's, as I said, though, it's an issue, and you have to actually, you really have to review them all, pros and cons, before you can actually make a final decision. And each time you bring an issue up, you have to make sure everyone has an opportunity to have input and their concerns, or else, nothing's gonna work.
Right, communication is key too.
Mhm.
But there's still a lot of fear out there,
Yeah,
from people that live around that area, on both sides of the bridge. It's not just Buzzards Bay, going to Great Gables, the sentiment is there as well.
yeah. We have another issue that Jared and I talked about it briefly when we were together, and I'll make references to the Title V. How does that impact you people over there? I mean, obviously, it's more septic than sewage, but still, it's impacting your people.
Well, so we are subject to the new Title V regulations,
Unfortunately, you
and,
got phase one.
we only have 2 watersheds in Bourne that are on the, that are listed as impaired. So we only have Magansett Squatigue, which is a watershed we share with Falmouth, which is actually currently measuring within limits. So how we're gonna deal with that in our comprehensive wastewater management plan, we have to figure. The other is off in East Harbor, which is like Monument Beach, so that's an impaired area. So for those two areas, we either have to file a watershed permit, or within 7 years, all of those septic systems have to be replaced with IA systems, anyone in the watershed. So we're working on that. We have to make a decision. We have to make a decision. There's a 6-month decision, there's a decision we have to make by January, and there's a decision we have to make in 2 years on watershed permits. To determine whether we're gonna do that for those areas. For the other areas, we need to have a plan, and we need to address it, but they're not yet under that new Title V. So, but we do have a lot of planning, and we are, even though Buttermilk Bay and Little Buttermilk Bay are not on the impaired water, they're not on the impaired list yet, but we know they're going to be, and they need improvement, and so that's why, one of the reasons it's our third top priority under the ones that are for doing something, and that was really the only area we found so far that we were gonna sewer. The rest of, the properties, our properties are, minimum acre zoning. We have a lot of areas that are 2-acre zoning, and it becomes very expensive to sewer those areas because it's so, it's so spread out. So we're still working on it, and we're just getting to phase 3 of our comprehensive wastewater management plan. We'll sort of decide what our, put the financials to the plan and really map it out.
Well, with your financial background and my financial background, I look at it in context of, my gosh, it's gonna cost the homeowners.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Anything else? Jerry, did you have any, Jerry, as a sewer commissioner, did you people have any business you had to transact?
We do not, we are here just to hang out with you guys.
You're recreating, huh?
We are recreating in Wareham.
Thank you for having us.
Well, as Jimmy has said, it's about time we did something like this. And we're neighbors, so and we share certain responsibilities that, yes, we should be talking, even if, bring Bullet over and we'll give him a bone or something. But I want to thank you very, very much for joining us this evening.
No, actually, we would like to thank you for having us. It's very important, and this is a bridge that's being reconstructed, and it's a good thing.
Indeed, indeed, and I apologize for the errors that caused the delay of trying to find us for one, but I'm glad you did and enjoy your company. And if you would like to.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that, I wanna thank you for amending the agenda to have an item for sort of general talk, because we would have been pretty limited in what we could say without that, and so I appreciate that. That, I think, was helpful to really get some things on the table and to have good communication, so I
Well,
appreciate
indeed, I felt for one, it would extend the meeting at a reasonable time, for one, and yes, we had to have an opportunity to talk to each other, because we hadn't been doing so in so many years.
Well,
Thank
maybe
you.
for our chair, then we can host the next one. You can come down to our little
Love to
slice of
host
heaven.
Wonderful, love to.
As long as there's no traffic going over the bridge.
Stay on this side.
We're on this side, so you're good. You don't have to
Our
cross.
community building's in Buzzards Bay, so you don't have to
No,
get to the
but Main
bridge.
Street backs up to the point I can't make my dentist appointment with everybody in town to go over the bridge.
Well, don't make them in the morning, cause
Oh,
that
that's-
way in the morning,
Yeah.
it's bad in the
Afternoon, you're
morning
good.
going over the bridge, and it's bad at night, in the afternoon coming off. Because 50% of the workforce on Cape Cod travels over the bridges.
Over 47% is the quote,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Travels down Cape. to go to work.
Every day,
Every day.
yeah,
there's a lot of traveling.
yeah.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to move, adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
Oh,
now,
we gotta
roll
roll
call.
Oh, roll call.
Aye,
Melissa, roll call vote.
aye,
Aye.
I said yay,
That's
yes,
it.
aye.
We're good.
Thank
We
you.
are
Thank you.
adjourned. Thank you for having us again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Jimmy?
No, I'm not ready to go
Oh,
yet.
wait, excuse me,
Thank you, James, Mr. Gilberty, we'll see you soon.
I
Yeah, okay.
I didn't see.
Melissa,
didn't even know
nice
she
to
was
meet
there.
you. I can't wait to meet you in person.
I have a couple things before we adjourn. I produced minutes for 5-4 and the 8-10 workshop. They need to be on the next agenda. Everybody was sent copies on August 22nd and August 24th, so you all have those minutes. I created minutes for 8-10, we should be using those. because I don't know what's gonna come out of the staff at at the wastewater plant. I had asked before that when the agenda gets posted, submitted to meetings, that a hard copy is sent to all the commissioners. That did not happen. That should happen. Because we need to know what's on the agenda. The only way we can see it is log on to the Wareham website and go down agendas and print it out there. I'm on 7 boards, committees, and commissions. 6 of them go out of their way to make sure all members are received a email containing the full agenda, so they don't have to go to the website. And I'm only requesting, Mr. Chair, that you do the same for us.
I will.
Thank you.
I personally have a problem with the time frame in which our agenda goes out for 1 and the distribution for 2. But I will take care of that.
So, Jimmy, your turn.
You haven't got Peter here, so we're gonna do everything on roll call. Jimmy,
Yes,
What are we yesing?
Jim Gabberty, yes.
well, you gotta make the motion
We're gonna
first.
make the motion.
Oh, I can't. Well, seeing it's Thursday night, and the game is gonna start, I'm making a motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. How do you vote, Jimmy?
I vote yes, please.
Sandy?
Aye,
Bob?
Yes.
at 7:42.
Bernie, yes. 4-0-0 to adjourn.